The Locked On Podcast Network presents the College Sports Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in college sports. From our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports.
The SEC is still going to get everything it wants in the college football playoff.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners.
There's been a lot of discussion about the college football playoff expansion, where it's heading to. There seems to be a lot of traffic, a lot of positive movement towards a 16-team playoff. There's just a lot of debate over what that format should look like. There's been discussion of 5 automatic qualifiers based on conference champions, along with 11 at-large bids to make it 16. There's been discussion of the SEC and the Big Ten each receiving 4 automatic bids to the playoff, along with the Big 12 and the ACC each getting 2, and then Notre Dame getting 1 if they're ranked high enough, and then 1 going to the group of 5 or 6 if they're ranked high enough to get 1 as well. But there's also been a lot of discussion about how the SEC might be moving away from the idea that they want 4 automatic bids in the college football playoff. And I think when this discussion began, a lot of it was in line with this idea that the SEC would add a 9th conference game to the schedule. And as the meetings went along in Destin, Florida, you heard more from coaches that they were not necessarily in favor of adding a 9th conference game. You add a 9th conference game, that means there's going to be more losses on the schedule for every team in the SEC. That's just the way it works, right? That's that old meme. The SEC is 500 in SEC play. That's a joke. I hope you're getting the sarcasm there. And so I understand where coaches are coming from, where athletic directors are coming from. When you add that 9th SEC game, it creates an opportunity for less bowl eligibility. And it's going to make it a little bit more difficult, a little bit more challenging for teams to make a run at the college football playoff. You look at what some of the SEC teams are playing in non-conference just this year. Texas is playing Ohio State. Oklahoma's playing Michigan. LSU's playing Clemson. They are scheduling difficult non-conference games amidst having a difficult conference schedule. You add a 9th conference game there, and there's going to be less motivation for programs to add big-time non-conference games. These, matchups that Oklahoma's going to have down the road with Nebraska and Clemson, and then who knows what else, those could go by the wayside because there's going to be less of an opportunity, less of a chance, a more difficult path to bowl eligibility and to the college football playoff by having all these difficult games in the conference and then adding non-conference as well. And so the SEC is being viewed as, hey, we were 4 automatic qualifiers. Well, I think that's one of those business tactics, right? You aim high, you talk about the most extreme thing that you want in a business deal, and understand that you have a point that you're willing to settle for. And so you look at the 4 automatic qualifier theory and that proposal, and yeah, that might have worked out well for the SEC. That might have worked out just fine for the Big Ten, but it could have potentially limited the SEC on the number of teams it could get into a 16-team playoff. Because you look back at the 2024 playoff seeding, and there was a good chance if that was 16 teams, that the SEC could have gotten 6 playoff teams. They got 3 in Georgia, Texas, and Tennessee, and Ole Miss, South Carolina, and Alabama were right there on the cusp of getting into the playoff. They would have been 3 of those teams in consideration for 16 if we were in a 16-team playoff. So the SEC understands, like, okay, we could try and push for 4 automatic qualifiers because we got kind of screwed out of 1 here. The SEC's words, not necessarily mine. Or we could just go for 5 automatic qualifiers based on conference champions and then go for 11 at-large bids, understanding that more often than not, we're going to have 4 teams. Whether they automatically qualify or not, we're going to have 4. And there's a good chance that we're going to get 5, And there's going to be some times where the SEC is going to get 6. And so I don't see this as Greg Sankey backing off what he's wanting in SEC play or in playoff expansion. I see this as, hey, we knew what the Big Ten was wanting. And listen, if any conference wants the automatic qualifiers the most, it's the Big Ten. Because you could see all of the discussion about Indiana making it, having very few quality wins on their schedule, making it into the playoff. And you can look beyond Michigan, beyond Ohio State, beyond Penn State. What are the programs that you look at and you're like, yeah, that's a program that would deserve a 4th AQ bid? So the Big Ten has all the reasons in the world to go and push for 4 automatic qualifiers, because there's going to be years where they're going to be getting 3. And there might be some years where they're only going to get 2. Not likely. It's more often than not that they're going to have 3 and maybe get 4 still. But they're one of the conferences that, hey, yes, we've got a lot of power, but all that power is sitting at the top. And there's a lot of like middling teams and then those bottom ranked teams that are just kind of, you know what I mean? So the SEC can settle for this 5-11, understanding that they're going to get the benefit of the doubt with 11 at-large bids more often than not, because the strength of schedule is so difficult. You look at the ESPN SP Plus, the Football Power Index, you look across the board, our own analysts here on the Locked On Network, they are discussing how difficult the SEC schedules are. And the strength of schedules for SEC teams are that much greater than what you see across the country. And the Big 12, the ACC, they're kind of more on board with this 5-11 approach. I think Greg Sankey's on board with it simply because he knows that, hey, my coaches, my athletic directors, my programs don't necessarily want to add a 9th game. And we're not going to give the Big Ten what it wants. Because why do we need to? Why does the SEC need to follow the Big Ten suit? Okay, they won the last 2 national championships. Big whoop. Who's dominated the college football landscape for much of the last decade and a half? The SEC. Who's helped push the college football landscape forward over the last decade and a half? The SEC. So if anybody has an idea or a direction or a vision for where this thing should go, that's going to be for the good of the game, it's not the Big Ten. It's the SEC. I mean, the Big Ten, for all intents and purposes, killed the Pac-12. Was that for the good of the game? No. That was for the good of the Big Ten. The Big Ten's out here looking for the best of the Big Ten. The SEC, are they looking out for the best of the SEC? Absolutely. That's Greg Sankey's job. Greg Sankey's job is to better support and better do things in the best interests of his programs. At the same time, you see him willing to do what's in the best interest of the game by looking more into this 5-11. And it was probably always on the table for him. Because again, the SEC doesn't want to necessarily go to that 9th conference game because there's more money to be made by having these big time non-conference matchups that we're going to get this year. We're going to get so many great non-conference matchups. Everybody wants to talk about the FCS game that SEC teams play, but nobody wants to talk about the top 5 matchups between like Texas and Ohio State that'll be at the beginning of the season, or the top 15 matchup between Oklahoma and Michigan that'll be week 2. Nobody wants to talk about that. They just want to focus on the FCS game. Or nobody wants to talk about Clemson LSU right out of the gate. 2 potential national title contenders going toe-to-toe right out of the gate. Nobody wants to talk about that. So why you see people talking about the SEC maybe giving in to what the Big 12 or the ACC wants, or not letting the Big 10 push them around. To me, it just comes back to this. Like, the SEC likes what they've got. There's no reason to necessarily change what they're doing unless the networks, ESPN in particular, are willing to pay big money for that 9th conference game. Not just a per diem or, a prorated rate for that 9th conference game. So I think, again, 5-11, I think, was always on the table for the SEC and Greg Sankey. They wanted to see what the landscape looked like for a 4 automatic qualifiers. I just don't think that that's something that they want to get involved in. And listen, the Big Ten, they might be pushing for the SEC to get 9 conference games, but why should the SEC give in to what the Big Ten wants?
The NBA Finals are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action right now. When you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. FanDuel makes betting easy. Whether it's picking your favorite teams or diving into player props from 3-pointers to steals, there's so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. You could place that first $5 bet on who you think will win the NFL Rookie of the Year. Travis Hunter is 9-1 to win the offensive award, but 10-1 to win the defensive award as well. I would probably take both of those. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today.
On yesterday's episode of Locked On USC, I talked with Esun Tafa's class of 2026 teammate, Chase Dinas. Chase was raised in a Bruin house. Esun was once a Washington Huskies commit. Even though his mom's side of the family is from Orange County, California, big USC fans. But that commitment did not last very long. And now, USC, they didn't wait long. They pounced on the 6'5", 300-pounder from the state of Utah. They wanted to make sure that Esun knew USC wanted him. So welcome to the show. Really appreciate you doing this, young man. How's life going for you today?
It's going good. How are you?
Okay. In a couple of years, when you're actually wearing the Cardinal and Gold, I'm going to be able to talk to you in those media scrums after practice and after games. But today, I like to call today's a present, so I'm going to enjoy it. So I want to go back. Go back to last November. You were committed to Washington.
Yes, sir.
What happened between November and I think it was February, roughly, was the timeline? What changed that caused you to decommit?
The main reason was the online coach. I low-key forgot his name already.
Okay.
Shoot, but the online coach, yeah. Oh, Coach Carroll, the online coach.
Right.
He went and took a job with his dad at the Raiders, so he was the main reason why I decommitted.
Yeah, USC fans know who Pete Carroll is, and they definitely know his son Brendan. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
we
for sure.
Carroll really well around these parts. Do you remember meeting Coach Riley at Corner Canyon High School? Do you remember that time when he showed up?
I actually didn't meet him at Corner. It was Coach Hansen that came and met me in February.
Okay, so that was the first time. I could have swore I thought Lincoln Riley was there as well, but hey, not a problem.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I asked that question. You'll understand here in just a second. Your first time you were on USC's campus was, I think, late February, early March, right around that time frame. Did you already have your offer in hand at that time?
Yes, sir.
You did?
Yeah.
You remember how that came about?
Yeah, I did. Coach Hansen came to the school when he first went to the O-line room. He came and visited me out here in Utah at my school. And he thought the old O-line coach offered me. But I told him he didn't. So he offered me right there on the spot.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yes, sir.
When you took that unofficial visit to USC, that I guess it was March, how long did that one-on-one time you had with Coach Riley, how long did that last? That's why I asked you the question, just a couple
It lasted a good 20 minutes. We talked about, just ball, and just the family was in there as well. So, just bonded with him a little bit.
Who was with you? I'm assuming mom was with you. Who else was with you?
It was my mom and my sister.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
What did they think of Coach Riley?
They love him. I love him. He's a great coach.
When you took that visit, you actually said, quote, the campus and football facilities, the Coliseum, the history of USC, meeting all of the football coaches, it was just a different feeling. I felt something special there. Look, I know for me, sometimes, trying to put those special feelings into words, it can kind of be difficult at times. Do your best, though. What was giving you those goosebumps that made it feel special?
I feel like just the history that's been there, to be honest. sometimes I go to other campuses. You know, it's just that feeling that you get when you're on that campus. You know, it just feels good. It feels right, and going there just felt like home. So, yep, had to make the decision and had to make it USC.
Hey, a lot of players, a lot of prospects are making USC the place to be right now. So you are ahead of the game, so to speak. I mean, you talked about the Coliseum and the history and the tradition. When you were there, did you get a chance to kind of walk around the Coliseum and check it out from the inside?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it was crazy. It's crazy big.
I can only imagine, putting on the Cardinal and Gold jersey, the helmet, walking down that tunnel with the sound of the cleats, doing the clickety clack, and then all of a sudden you appear there, you get closer to the field, and just seeing thousands of fans waiting for you. I mean, the closest I'm ever going to get to that, like I said, after games, pre-games. Do you see yourself actually doing that?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I envision it every day. Yeah, I'm just so excited to get up there and train with the boys and get to know the coaches and just play for that team.
So you're kind of set now, and in fact, you're scheduling yourself to be an early enrollee.
Yes, sir.
Take a few minutes to explain to the fans, what's involved with that, the sacrifices you're going to be making so you can show up to USC as early as possible.
Right now in summer, I have to take a lot of classes, so it takes a lot of time from, just probably hanging out with friends or just, just having fun. Think those little sacrifices will help me get up this December so I can get up there by spring ball so I can train and, improve my game up there with the big boys.
Oh, they are definitely some big boys. I'm looking at that
Yes, sir.
offensive class that you're a part of, and I'm like,
Yeah, they're huge.
I think Cannon Smith's the smallest guy, and he's 6'4", just under 300 pounds. So
Yeah.
when you're talking those type of numbers, you guys are bringing in some big dudes. What kind of support system do you have that's going to be able to help you, get through the summer? Like you said, you're going to be making sacrifices, telling your friends, can't do it, I got to do this. Who's in your corner right now that's going to be helping you through that?
It's really my mom and my grandparents. They're just always, telling me to get that stuff done. My coaches as well. They're just always telling me because they know my potential. So, they get on me about that stuff. So, I make sure to get it done.
When you say they get on you, do you respond? And this is kind of just a question out of the blue. Do you respond better to, I'll use the swift kick to the butt, or are you more of the guy who responds better to just tell me what you need and I'll get it done?
It's a little bit of both, to be honest. Yep. It just, takes me a bit of time because it takes a long time to get that stuff done. I get tired at sometimes, but, I have to get it done.
So last week, Esun, I had Madden Reardon on the show, and he told me that he watches game film during his AP history class because AP history comes so easy for him, and that his favorite class is actually physics. Are you one of those nerds too? And the reason I ask is that you told WeRSC.com when you were going through the recruiting process that you like watching and studying film as well. You want to be real high IQ when it comes to football. Can I call you a nerd? Are you one of those guys who just enjoys getting it done, watching film, doing whatever it takes?
Yeah, sometimes I like to, my coach tells me some stuff about some film. He tells me a lot of, like during season, we watch a whole bunch of film. It's like every day. I love watching film. I know it helps a lot with me knowing like what my teammate next to me is doing. So it helps know what I'm about to do this next play. But it helps a lot.
Are you looking, how do you study tendencies for like defensive lineman tendencies when you're watching film? What are the keys? What are you looking for to say, all right, I know that guy is going to hit my outside shoulder, or no, that guy's coming inside. What are you looking for?
I look for mostly alignment, how they align up, especially as a tackle, knowing that alignment, you have to set up what set you want to use and, you have to switch it up every play. I also look for his favorite move. Like, what's his favorite move he likes to hit every play? I think if I think about that, I know what move I can counter that with. Also look at for, like, their linebackers as well. They always come in blitz as well. So I know their favorite move and how they blitz if they're like aggressive or they're a little passive with their rush. But knowing those stuff really help.
Now are you playing tackle pretty much in high school right now?
Yes, sir.
When you get to USC, I think the intent is to maybe have you play interior offensive line. What have they told you?
It's interior. I'm gonna play guard.
Do you prefer one side or the other, or does it not matter? Because the footwork's completely different.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm fine with anything. Yep.
Oh, okay. I like the
Yes,
confidence.
sir.
Speaking of that, you also said that I'm working on being more consistent overall, anchoring better, keeping my eyes looking for work past the second and third level. I'm working especially on core strength and increasing speed. There's a lot of work to do, but I'm all about that. So first of all, like I said, I love the fact that you're looking to hit somebody 100% of the time, getting to
Yes,
that third level. I think that has to be the first quality you look for in an offensive lineman. Talk about some of the things that you can do to increase your core strength, increase your speed.
Here at Corner Canyon, our coach he's a really good coach. He has like a lot of good, workouts. He's just a track coach as well. So, after every workout we do in the morning, we finish off with abs, like some plate crunches or some Russian twists.
Okay.
It switches up every day. Running, we do 1050s, all types of stuff, ladders. But, it just helps. I think those things help me a lot, increasing my speed and also my strength.
Where do you think you would rate on a scale of 0 to 10 as far as stamina, being able just to keep going and going and going? Where do you rate yourself?
I think I'm a solid 8. Our coach makes us run after every practice and during the season. Yeah.
After
It's crazy. Yes, sir. Yep. After practice is straight to running.
How many gassers are you guys doing?
We do. Well, it switches up every practice. He has a play card, and every play he marks down a gasser if we took a play off.
Ooh.
So yeah, it gets real with that guy.
Right there.
Yes, sir. Yep. So I've been making sure everybody on the line is 300 because I don't know how to run after practice.
Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
Dabo Swinney just landed a martial artist offensive lineman who could anchor Clemson's line for years to come.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers.
Leo Delaney commits to Clemson, and we've got some prayers answered, maybe for some of the Clemson fans out there. And then we'll talk about the 2027 recruiting class more in depth as we continue our coverage on Clemson recruiting this offseason. Football has landed another commit for the 2026 recruiting cycle, a versatile and physically gifted offensive lineman. Leo Delaney isn't just a name that you need to know, but he could be a big-time talent that could jump into the NFL. And I'm finding out that he has some martial arts background that kind of helpfully chop down those defensive linemen. 4-star guy from Providence Day. You probably know where that's from. That's in Charlotte. That's one of the big football schools out there in Charlotte. Clemson hasn't had a ton of luck out of Providence Day, but it's kind of nice that they now have a guy that's coming in to, accept a commitment to Clemson from that school, because, hey, anything around Charlotte, it's a big deal for me, because you want to get in the big cities in the areas of your pipeline. And that South Carolina border to me has always been important, and one that, it seems like Clemson has kind of struggled in it at times, but had some success with Delaney. He committed just today, picking the Tigers over Michigan and Penn State. And he accelerated his timeline after an official visit this past weekend, which he said was a red carpet experience. Not a surprise to Clemson fans that they would pull out the red carpet for a guy like this. But Clemson had been recruiting him hard for quite some time now and making him one of their earlier offensive offers in the class. So they obviously made this guy a priority, and it's really cool to see because he seems to have the measurables that you're looking for. And Matt Luke is going after some big dudes on the offensive line and making some shockwaves, because he's not just the only offensive lineman that Matt Luke has been able to pull in. And one of the reasons why they're having such a successful 2026 recruiting class so far, top 5 in the nation, is because of their success on the offensive line. A lot of analysts out there saying Delaney could be a day 2 draft pick, a multi-year starter for the Power 4, for a Power 4 team out there. He's got great technique, obviously has the size, explosiveness, and he could be one of those guys that you would expect to kind of fight for some early playing time as he gets onto campus, especially as Clemson continues to, cycle through some of their more veteran guys when he comes around in 2026 as a freshman. He, could be one of those guys that could build towards another push towards the championship, push towards postseason on the offensive line. He can play tackle. He can play guard, can even switch sides. He's got a black belt in Jeet Kune Do, which, I didn't know anything about Jeet Kune Do, which kind of seems ridiculous that I didn't know this, but maybe it's a knock on my man card, but this was developed by Bruce Lee. So this is his technique and basically helps him sharpen his hand combat skills, making him, more versatile and more difficult to overcome in the run and pass blocking schemes that he has out there. I mean, the offensive linemen have to be really good with their hands and very purposeful with where they put their hands. And, in a lot of ways, very violent and explosive with how they use their hands. So that to me, I think that is a good cross sport to be a part of, if you'd call it. I mean, it's a combat sport, right? But it's a good skill that can transferable skills, what I'm trying to say, between the two, football and martial arts, making him, to me, much stronger on the offensive line. And it's not really just about that. I mean, he has the height and weight, the measurables to back it up as well. 6'6", 290 pounds. We're talking about a guy who is a rising senior this fall at 6'6", 290. So he has definitely got the measurables there. And, when you look at some of his film on huddle.com, I really love his footwork. And he kind of is a guy that reminds you of somebody who could go out and be a tight end if he needed to be. I mean, like I said, you see highlights of him playing guard, playing tackle, playing left side, playing right side. And now this is, one of multiple 4-star offensive linemen that Matt Luke has brought in 2026, creating and hopefully building exactly what Matt Luke wants. The guys that are on the team aren't bad by any stretch of the imagination, but they are not technically guys that Matt Luke had any hand in, really, except maybe the true freshman, right? But Matt Luke is starting to build out his group of guys. So I'm curious to see, how it all works out when he gets a chance to pick exactly who he wants. And he's obviously having success because he's able to get a handful of guys in for 2026 that want to be a part of his program. Now, there's always a concern. Some fans maybe feel like anytime there's an offer and a commitment in the summer, there's always a concern because you got to go through your senior season. He's not actually going to sign his national letter of intent until December, more than likely. So you still got time to go through a whole football season. And, anybody can be flipped, but he has ties to Clemson. He has family members that I'm aware of that have graduated from Clemson. And he seemed to just be very, thankful and excited about getting an offer from Clemson and just being able to be a part of the program and visit the university. So to me, that kind of suggests that this is more solid than not. And with Matt Luke being around, he's going to get elite level hands-on coaching. And with the type of measurables and the skill set he has with his film, I think that he's a guy who could fight for early playing time at Clemson, which would give me all the more reason why he would want to stay around and stick through this commit to the very end till he signs. So I'm excited to see what happens to him. Now, you know how it goes with offensive linemen. We may not actually get to see him light up Saturdays until a few years down the road, but it is good because Matt Luke has to build around a foundation of guys that he wants on the team. And to me, this is a statement for him showing that he can go toe-to-toe with anybody else out there, Big Ten, SEC, and come out with a big-time offensive lineman. Clemson's culture is still elite. They're still able to compete in the NIL era. And with coaches like Matt Luke, you have to be very confident and excited about what the future holds for Clemson and that offensive line, because you have to have an offensive line that can protect your quarterback and also open up lanes for your running game as well.